because there was a lot of kidnapping going on around that time. There was quite a well-known case, which is the Shaw case. I think it was Harold Shaw that was kidnapped, and he managed to escape from the boot of the car. I guess that's what drove the intention to send me overseas.
All right, so I'm very happy to be with you today, Richard. Thank you for coming down because you're one of the rare few people in Singapore that can actually say, this is my grandfather's road. So thank you for being here. I heard that when you were very, very young, you lived in this place called U Villa. Would you tell me a little bit about U Villa?
U Villa was a big house
on
next to Mount Sophia. Right next to MGS, and between MGS and the Cathay building, actually.
Where the Cathay Cineplex building is?
Where the Cathay Cineplex building is today. I was actually born in Hong Kong, but I was 1 year old when my parents came back to Singapore. And so I grew up in U Villa.
Okay.
So I remember running around the garden. There were lots of nooks and crannies to play in. And Cathay building was then the most luxurious apartments in Singapore. A lot of expats lived there. And so they didn't have a garden. So on the weekends, the gates would open and the amas with all the kids would come in and play in the garden of U Villa. Obviously, I don't know why or the reason. I guess my father decided just to open it up. And it was quite fun because I could mix with many different kids from different countries. And so on. And I had friends to play with.
At that age, were you groomed in any way to eventually be part of the business?
No.
No?
No expectation that I would go into the family business. My father is one of 13 brothers.
Right.
And so he ran a bank. So we had a bank at that time. And there were other businesses. I wasn't so keen on banking. So, the other parts of the business, or the other businesses were not really open for any of the next generation to enter. There was no plan for any kind of next generation succession. So we all had to find our own way.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So 10-ish years old, you spend 10 years at U Villa and then you're sent overseas. So you mentioned in a previous conversation you had, somewhere else that this was a very abrupt decision. What happened?
I was in Sec 1 at the time, and my mother said, we're going to England.
Out of nowhere?
You're going to find your boarding school.
Wow.
And I think that part of it was driven by security concerns, because there was a lot of kidnapping going on around that time.
Yeah, kidnapping.
Yeah, so it may be that we had received some kidnap threats or whatever.
Wow.
Yeah, it was quite common. It's actually, we sound surprised today, right? Yeah, but back then it was not uncommon.
What era what decade would this have been?
This is 50s and 60s.
50s. So people are just getting kidnapped over money and ransoms and stuff?
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
Yes.
So did your family know anyone who was affected by that?
Well, later on, there was quite a well-known case, which is the Shaw case. I think it was Harold Shaw that was kidnapped, and he managed to escape from the boot of the car that he was locked in. I think this is the story.
Yeah.
And subsequently, there was a shootout at Shangri-La Hotel because the kidnappers sent some kind of demand note, and they basically got ambushed. Anyway, I had a friend who was kind of also murdered. Yeah.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Also quite a well-known case. Yeah. Oh. His best friend murdered him.
That's horrendous. So I can understand why your family, was concerned. Yeah. You say that it's one of the most formative times of your life. Yeah. Why? What did you experience?
Boarding school? Yeah, it was very different, right? So you have to. I guess I kind of took it as a new sort of experience. The old buildings, definitely not the food, but the way that kids would be treated. You had to sit at these long tables for your meals.
Oh yeah, same as the Harry Potter, the scenes where they had the long, right.
Long tables. They have what you call a master, a teacher at the head of the table, and he dishes out the food.
The master is serving you, so it sounds pretty good.
Well, food wasn't good.
Over there, no such thing as char siu.
No, it was baked beans on toast, basically.
I've heard about the discipline in British schools. I don't think they do it now anymore, but a lot of caning for boys.
Yes.
Have you ever?
Yes.
Over what?
We came in both in school in Singapore. And
In Singapore also?
Yeah.
Over what?
I used a bad word in class. One of my classmates reached behind during exam time. He reached behind and grabbed my eraser.
Yeah.
Said, "Oh, you bastard!" And that
Then
was
you
what
got caned?
I got caned for that.
Okay.
Yeah, and the invigilator was a teacher and reported me to the headmaster.
Yeah.
And I had to take 2 of the best in front of the class.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're saying that this time of your life was formative, right? Formative for you, meaning that it still impacts you. Was it the discipline? Was it something else?
We were going through a lot of social change. And being in England at that time, it was coming out of the Second World War, and then things started to change in society. But the schools were still being run like we're still in the 19th century. So there was a big disconnect about what happens in school and what was happening outside. Something that affected me, why we had to conform like that when there's a lot of change going on.
I think you know lah. It's very hard for us to talk without talking about the big elephant in the room, right? When people have conversations with you, they always want to know what happened to the family, that time period, right? I think a lot of people will be surprised to find out that actually the family had way more businesses or larger enterprises, a larger scope last time. And then things changed in your dad's generation. Could you explain a little bit about what happened?
Yeah, I think my father came from a very large family, and there were 13 brothers that inherited the businesses. There were 11 girls that didn't. They got a dowry, but they didn't have shares in the business. So the shares were pretty much evenly divided. So there were 13 shareholders for all the family companies. And so it was very hard to come to any consensual decision.
Because it was an even split.
It was even split. So it was just difficult. And in the end, it was easier to just sell everything.
And you took over in 1989?
Yes.
That's when you came in?
Yep.
What was the situation then? What did the business look like?
It was very small, but albeit a listed company in Singapore at the time. Very small business. We had one branch in Singapore and 5 branches in Malaysia.
Your family was also essentially feuding, right? Your brothers were upset. I mean, your uncle and your dad.
For whatever reason, a lot of jealousy and so on within the family. And so they didn't like the idea of any of the next gen coming into...
Which means your
business.
generation.
Yeah, so I told my father, who was then the non-executive chairman, I said, look, by that time I was 42 years old. I had 18 years of working experience. I said, and I had been a managing director, not CEO, but managing director of a computer distributor and some other companies and so on. So I had some senior management experience already by then.
Yeah.
So I said to my father, I said, give me a chance. Look, we are in this position. I think there's a potential here. Don't waste it, right? The independent directors agreed, came in, not a very high salary. And I was general manager, I wasn't even a director. And then within 3 months of my joining, other uncles had organized a sellout. So they sold the business out to somebody else.
Essentially buy you out.
No, they didn't buy, they sold.
They sold it.
They sold to somebody else. I think the one moment when you're told that your company's been taken over, I mean, that is a moment that will live with me forever, right? I felt numbed in a way,
Wow.
right? So I said, oh, wow, what does that mean to me?
Yeah.
Am I going to stay on with the company?
How did you overcome that initial shock? Was it because you still had that job? That's why you were able to...
Yeah, so you kind of, because when you invested into a job like this, you have certain dreams. And in a way, you just wonder at this point in time, what's going to happen to those dreams? And you just wait and see what happens.
Right.
And actually, that's the best thing that happened to us. Because then the buyer, the owner of the company at that time, who owned 51 or 50-something % of the company, was a rational corporate entity.
Right. Would you tell me a bit more about your emotions during that time? Did you feel betrayed? Did you feel stressed?
Yeah. I've got to clarify that this is to do with my father's generation much more than mine. I have a very good relationship with all my cousins. So
Right.
at this level, no issue. My father and some of his brothers, they had these issues, but they would still talk to each other. It's just I guess you can say some of the uncles were not happy with whatever was going on. They said, "Oh, why don't you do what you're doing now, and maybe in 10 years' time we'll think about giving you the group managing director job, and in the meantime they will run it."
Yeah.
It goes back to, if I'm older, I must know more than you, right? And I didn't agree with that at all.
Yeah. But how do you overcome the emotional barriers of that, which is, this has been essentially like a drag on my family for so long. People are arguing about this for decades.
I look at it the other way around. So for the longest time, my father always said, this is the one business left that carries a family name. So we should try and at least either preserve it or at least not let it go down. Because this is, in a way, is the family's reputation, heritage, and so on. Because it was the one business that my great-grandfather started, but he died young. So my great-grandfather died in his 30s. So my father always felt, if you continue the family heritage through this company, it's worth preserving it and trying to do something with it.
Yeah, I mean, what a present, right, to your father. I mean, you did it. You're doing it. It's remarkable. Yeah.
I think he was quite happy at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he was able to live through. He died about 2 years ago. It was 99 plus. So I think, and he was pretty lucid. He had no medical conditions.
Yeah, wonderful.
So I think he was quite happy seeing the growth of Eu Yan Sang.
Yeah. Did he express that sort of feeling of, wow, I mean, you did it?
I think so. Yeah.
So for Eu Yan Sang, right? Could you tell me in what ways it's been modernized in ways that we don't even notice?
Well, today, when you walk to a shop,
Yeah.
it's like any modern retail operation,
Yeah.
But when I started, it was very different.
Like with the herbs and the...
No, we're still using abacus, right?
Yeah. Oh, in the shops?
Yes.
In the 80s?
Oh, yes.
Abacus?
Abacus, yes.
I can guarantee you there are people watching this that have no idea what an abacus is.
Okay.
Yeah.
We used a daching to weigh. That was the way it was.
Yeah.
This counter, you bring the herbs out, you put the paper there, you weigh the herbs, and so on. That was what I had when I started.
Yeah.
So we had to go from abacus and handwritten invoices, or even in Hong Kong we use they call a telegraph, which is a cable system that you zap from the cashier to the counter.
You need to explain that. How does this work?
So the cashier sits in the corner.
Yeah.
And then you put your money into a little container, and there's a pulley. It's like a cable system.
No way.
With a spring, and you zing it across.
That's crazy. You're saying this is in the 1989, 1990?
Yeah, we still kept it for fun in a way.
Yeah.
But no point of sale systems. So we had to graduate to barcoding, having point of sale systems, and so on.
Wow.
Yeah, so that was the sort of modernization process. Of course, when you do that, everything at the back end has to change. It's not just the accounting part, but even you're going to warehousing, all that has to change.
Yeah.
Now we have ERP systems. I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah.
When there's change, right?
Yeah.
So you come in, you're at the time compared to everyone else before, you were the new guy, the young guy, right? And then you make all these changes. What happens when you want to make a change and you have people who have been there for ages and they're not happy? How do you do that?
I think I found that they embraced the change. We had staff that had been working. There was one case, a guy who was working with us for 60 years. He joined at the age of 16 as an apprentice.
Wow.
And we celebrated the 60th anniversary with the company. So they don't retire. There's no retirement age. There's no written employment contracts. So basically, they work with us until they die.
Wow.
That's how it was. In a way, back in the day, you look after everybody, shop by shop. Each shop had a cook, and you had meals for all the staff in the shop. And in the case of the very young apprentices, they actually slept in the shop as well.
Wow.
Yeah, this is the way it was back then, and it happened until if you like, into the 70s, 80s. Yeah.
Do you think that loyalty still exists these days, or are things different?
I think it's a little bit different, but hopefully that we can still instill a sense of belonging, if you like a family sort of thing. Even though we don't consider ourselves as a traditional kind of like a family business, we're no longer a family business anyway.
Right.
But we hope that some of these qualities will still be around,
Yeah. It's so interesting that you bring up these qualities, morals, philanthropy, which
Yeah,
your family is
yeah.
also known for. I want to ask you about that in a bit, but before we move on to that, we're talking a lot about a little bit about your personality, right? East versus West, modern versus
Yeah,
traditional. I read somewhere that you have some thoughts about this very Eastern traditional value about listening to your elders. Your elders know better.
It's not always true. I don't think that we should just listen to, it cannot be just one direction. And I've always encouraged to have open conversations with my children, for example. And I want to hear the young people's point of view. I cannot be the only person in the room that's right. Even though I'm usually the oldest one.
That's a very heartening thing to hear you say, right? Because I think that it's not even an Eastern value. I think it's just a thing where people get older. You feel like I've done so much of my life. You don't know what I've been through.
Yeah.
Are you okay when your kids question you, when your staff question you?
I want people to question.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So does it happen?
I think so. I think we have fairly open conversations, both at the office and at home.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can never penalize someone for questioning you, right? I cannot be the only person in the room that's right. That's what society is about, is to be able to have many different points of view. If we all think the same way, I think it's very hard to progress. Yeah.
Interesting. So you have that mindset, you're doing all this, philanthropy, we were talking about it just now. I mean, obviously your great-grandfather was the one, right? He started this, the story goes that he started it for people who are addicted to opium, workers.
So the name of Yuan Sang, the original name of the shop was just Yan Sang, Ren
Yan
Sen.
Sang.
And we translate it in English as caring for mankind. It's a bit deeper meaning than that in Chinese. It's like being benevolent to people, to humankind. Yeah.
That spirit of caring for someone else is already built in from the very start in the
so
name.
It's a mission. Yeah.
Yeah. And so it passes down, obviously your grandfather and then your father especially connected to a lot of different charities.
Yeah.
You yourself also
So,
still working with a lot of charities actively. Would you tell me what you do with them?
Well, I sit on the 2 units of the Taiwan charity. I'm on the Taiwan Ang Mo Kio Hospital board, and I chair the Taiwan nursing home. And I was also formerly in other parts of the Taiwan charity system. Currently, I'm chairing a Go Chok Tong enabling funds for under SG Enable.
Right.
So we try to raise money for that, which I'm a bit sort of slow in doing, but hopefully by next year we can do something.
It's okay. From there we learned that even you procrastinate, so it's okay if we procrastinate. Yeah. Can I ask, right? So I don't think that most people don't want to donate to charity. I think most people they want to donate or they want to help in some way. I believe most people are good in that way, but most people don't, frankly, right? And I think that it's not because they're greedy, it's not that they want to hoard money, it's that people are so terrified. If I give money to charity or if I spend my time volunteering, it means less time working, taking care of myself. I need that money to survive. I believe most people have that mindset, maybe. So well,
I disagree with that.
So that's the question, right? Like,
Yeah.
how do you get over that mindset of my resources need to be my resources? I'm so scared to give. I'm so scared to give time even.
Yeah, I think you can carve out your resources, whether it's time or money. I think that if for example, you have blue-collar workers who want to do some charitable act and so on, I think as an employer, you should be able to give them some company time for them to do that. I think that's where the employer, the company can actually contribute its part. By in a way allocating your employees' time to do some of this work.
Right.
It's part of CSR, if you like. Yeah.
You recently quite recently handed over things to an external director, managing director.
Yeah,
Is that right?
yeah.
So now he's running things.
Yeah,
You've stepped down from that.
professional management, yeah.
Yeah. So is it fair to say semi-retired? Is that how you think
I'm
of it?
retired.
You say retired.
I was CEO until 2017.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I turned 70.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. So this year I'm 77.
Happy birthday again.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And since then, I don't have a day-to-day role in the company. And so what I've done is I've taken on other directorships with other companies and so on.
You know, I think it's going to blow some people's minds because we know this, I know this, but I don't think people know that you have a band.
Fly me to the moon, let me play among the stars. Let me see what spring is like on Jupiter and Mars.
I mean, that's crazy to me that you
Why?
someone goes into a pub and then the ex-boss of Yu Yan Sang is just singing over there. So what happens? It's just remarkable. It's amazing.
Why? Why should it be?
Yeah. So you have a great time doing it?
Yeah, enjoy it. I mean, that's the buzz, right?
Yeah.
When you are able to perform in public and get some kind of response.
Yeah.
What you're looking for is a performer's response.
You know, every generation of your family that has taken over Yu Yan Sang has had their own legacy, right? There's the philanthropy, there's a little bit the family feud, right? Each generation has that story. For you, what do you want your time, your story to be?
I think from a business point of view, I hope that I've made some contribution, at least to our industry, to us, and brought up an awareness of the industry that we're in, and how we might, as an industry, not just as a company, how we might be able to contribute towards the general health, of people everywhere. And now it's ever more important with everything that you see, with aging society, with all the pollution, environmental issues that's going on. How do we keep people healthy? How do we keep people stay healthy longer? I think there's too much conflict. How can we avoid this? What are the things that we can do that we can live more harmoniously? How do we make a better society? And it has to start with the individual. It's not, you can't leave it to government does everything for me or whatever it is. It has to be, your intent has to be starting from a very personal point of view.